the writers have been on strike for around 2 months now, going on the third month. And now the extended deadline on July 12th for the actors, the SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, they are on the verge of striking. They've been making picket line signs. They've been working on setting up like coordinating event, picket lines and making sure that they're ready to go, because on July 12th, if there isn't a deal between the actors and the AMPTP, the producers, they're going on strike. And the SAG has not been on strike since 1980. And when they
That's
last
our
went on strike,
film industry going.
4 decades ago, they were on strike for like 3 months. And like, look, if you think that there's been a disruption in Hollywood with the Writers Guild on strike,
that's a whole nother
boy.
ball.
Now you add SAG, which is a guild that's about 3 times bigger in terms of its membership. That's going to really bring...
98% are voting in favor.
Yeah.
98, not like
Hollywood's
60,
gonna be
70%. Majority. Everyone's like, yeah.
And there was a letter signed by like 1,700 actors like a week or so ago where they were like saying to the negotiating team of the union, you need to stand strong at the negotiation table. We are not going to, we don't need to give up a lot of ground here. Like, we need fair payment. We need to be protected against, all the ways in which the studios have been encroaching on our ground. AI, bad pay practices, overworked, underpaid, hiring them on like gig workers instead of full-time jobs.
Slightly going to go off the topic, but have you seen the newest season of Black Mirror?
I've only heard about the Salma Hayek episode, which I believe is maybe like one.
That is essentially connected to what's happening right now, and that's a genuine concern. To be fair, like the season is, I mean, there are some brilliant episodes, there are some really poor episodes, but that one was very on point when it comes to the fear of AI for the film industry, the writers, the actors, and the whole consensus about that topic. So I strongly recommend you go and see this episode if you haven't seen it. It's episode 1 of the new season. Yeah. And back to you, Dan. Sorry, I just had to mention, because that episode blows your mind when it comes to, like, you really start to understand the writers and the actors and why you kind of should make things smooth and make things just and right before everything kicks in. Like, too late. So yeah, absolutely.
I've been
so when's the date?
And I'm
when's
gonna
the
watch
date?
it.
No, you should.
Yeah, the July 12th is when the extended deadline for these negotiations. And if at the end, when the clock strikes midnight on July 12th, if there is no deal between the producers and the actors, they will go on strike for the first time in like 4 decades, and they will be striking now concurrently with the WGA. So Angelina was on the show last week talking about how the auditions have already really kind of stopped for theatrical stuff. Like the only kind of auditions you were getting is commercials and like a few other things like short films or like small, things that are going to set up and run really quickly before things run out. Or the signatories from the production side are not a part of this, the AMPTP. But Hollywood's going to be at a standstill. This is going to be something significant, and I think we will have to see some, big sea change in Hollywood in terms of how the whole industry operates.
2.5 million people working in Hollywood. Just quickly,
and that's a lot of people to all of a sudden be out of work, whether they're the ones striking or the production they were working on it can't happen anymore because the actors and the writers are on strike.
Yeah.
I mean, Comic-Con has already been decimated. Nobody is going, like HBO, Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers, DC Studios, Marvel. Everybody is skipping Comic-Con this year. Universal, like all of these big studios. So it's having an effect now where people are starting to feel it. And I think the longer these strikes go on, the longer the WGA strike goes on, if SAG goes on strike, we're going to start to feel it. And I think, eventually the studios will have to kind of come back and kind of give up some ground, because once the consumer starts to feel the pain, then the studios, I think, will start to say, okay, we need to do something about it.
But it's so unfair on the industry. Yeah. Like, it only takes for the audience to react, for people to get paid and get their laws and their protection in check.
What they're asking for is fair payment, fair pay practices.
Fair payment. Yeah.
It's And look, it's not even just in the US anymore. Look, Netflix is one of the worst offenders of this.
Yeah.
Netflix is like, if you read the articles, if you read the news stories, apparently Netflix is one of the big, like, people who are holding all of this stuff back from like all the deals from happening, because they don't want to give any ground. And they have this business model of screwing over creatives and having, trying to get as much money as possible to drive up their bottom line and please Wall Street. And there was this article in the LA Times that you and I were reading before the show where it talks about how now, at a time when Netflix is relying heavily on its international catalog of shows and movies, at the time when Hollywood is basically shut down or just about.
And there's
in Korea, the situation is worse. And now the guilds over there are like, you need to negotiate with us and bargain with us, because otherwise we can't keep doing this.
It's important to mention, in case you don't know why you should care for South Korea. South Korea did Squid Game. You remember that show that broke the internet? That's the one. Yeah. Yeah,
it added almost $1 billion to Netflix's company valuation, like $900 million. And on the other hand, the creator of the show had to sign over all the IP rights to Netflix, so he does not get any, royalties. All he got was just enough to put food on the table for his family. What? That's it. So the creator of Squid Game, the most successful Netflix show, like probably ever, or certainly in recent times, that added $1 billion, damn near $1 billion to Netflix's valuation. Netflix made all the money, and that creator doesn't get any residuals. I'm like, how messed up is that? And I'm glad that the guilds in Korea are like, you know what? It doesn't matter that you have these third-party production companies that are local to Korea who you basically outsource all the production to. Netflix is the ultimate place where all this stuff ends up. So you need to collectively bargain with us.
That's another thing. South Korea doesn't have Amazon Prime, things like that. Netflix is the only streaming platform in there. God.
And when you have such a big presence in the market, you can either monopolize it, and I think the government over there is going to have to do something to pass some laws to protect the industry there.
It's South Korea.
What really I think people need to pay attention to here is this repeated pattern of behavior by Netflix. Not only with what's going on with the strike in the US now with the WGA and possibly with SAG, but now in Korea, and I'm sure this is going to come up in other parts of the world, in India and other big markets where Netflix has a big presence and has a growing presence. In the past, whenever these kind of strikes have happened, some big tycoon of the industry, like a Bob Iger or Eisner, or like, who I forget the name of the person who used to be the president of NBC Universal, like somebody has had to step up and kind of come and to bring everybody back to the table and resolve this.
Yeah.
I don't know right now who that person is going to be, who's going to fix this for the WGA, or if SAG goes on strike. The DGA got their deal, but 2 out of 3, if you strike out on 2 out of 3, Hollywood is still going to come to a standstill. And I sincerely hope, especially with the people who, look, there's a lot of A-list actors out there who are not as affected by this because they have a lot of money in their bank, they have investments, they have other businesses. They will be okay for a while.
The whole Hollywood is not working on A-list actors. For those who don't know, to make a film or a TV series, it takes hundreds of people per episode, of per 10 minutes of the sequence for this to happen.
Thousands of people.
Thousands of people
when you
sometimes.
Post-production, pre-production, writers, editors, the people who work on the Teamsters. And
it's
not only
like
is this
whole company, a whole factory, all the machines, all the products, everything that consists of the movie is not working anymore, or is not paid. Everything's and the only person that takes all the money is Elon Musk. There you go.
Well, not not specifically, but when a CEO of one of these big studios is getting like a 9-figure bonus, while
and no one else
the actors or the screenwriters are on strike, like Netflix's executives just got a bunch of bonuses, and at a time, I'm like, the PR of all that is so bad. But ultimately, who I feel the worst about in this situation,
it's a trillion dollar company. Oh my goodness. That's why you don't make that. It's hard to make that kind of money without being shady in some areas. I think that's just being repeated pattern here.
And again, like who I feel for the most of the people who are depend on gigs to pay their bills month to month, who don't have millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars saved in the bank account, who don't have a backup plan. And especially worse for the people who are not directly in the guilds that are striking, but who can't work anymore because their show or their movie got shut down because of the strikes. I'm like, they don't even like, what is who the,
they're not even striking.
It's not their fault. Like, what did they do to deserve this? I mean, like, ultimately,
it's a really tough
really
situation.
hope. Yeah, it's a tough situation, and I really, really hope, for the sake of everybody in Hollywood, that they can strike a deal with SAG, and then they could come back to the table, strike a deal with WGA. We're going to be following this story on the show every week. Let's hope for the best. Fingers crossed. Right now, it's looking pretty bleak, but you never know. Like, people have pulled out last-minute deals at the 11th hour, and I really do hope that something happens and we get a deal and people can get back to work, because it's people's livelihoods we're talking about. And I really hope that we're able to find a resolution to this. But you guys tell us what you think. Leave us a comment below. Are you affected by the strike? Are you going to be striking with SAG? Are you part of the union? Are you
what are you gonna do?
All these stories? Is it affecting you like it's affecting us? I mean, it's a big deal, and it's going to start affecting people who aren't even in the guilds, because if you're trying to watch a TV show that's not going to have another season for 2 years, it's going to be because of this. And so it's going to affect all of us. Let us know what you think.